Betty Cross. I am a published science fiction and fantasy author in the young adult genre, and I would like to read from an excerpt from my upcoming novel, Dispelled Illusions. Though it's a sequel to Discarded Faces, my original YA dystopian book, and one of the things I deliberately left unanswered at the end of the first book was what happened to that woman that was arrested and taken to a concentration camp. And well, of course, here in the second book, we tell her story. And so it's going to be, if you want grimdark, you're going to get grimdark. Because this is grim and this is dark. I have one other thing to say. The railroad carriages in this story are like the passenger cars in a European passenger train, which means that they have several little compartments. Each one has about room for about 4 to 6 people or something like that, facing each other, and then they have a narrow hallway for access. But in this particular passenger car, they've built a wooden shelf about halfway between the floor and the ceiling, so that you can carry lots of prisoners in it. You got 4 or 5 of them put it on the front, on the bottom on the seats with their heads like this, and then you got a whole bunch of people scrunched up against the ceiling in the shelves like that. And it's a hell of a way to transport people, but hey, they're going to a concentration camp. Okay, so here we go. After what seemed like an eternity, the train began to slow down. Knath's bladder was near the bursting point. She prayed their final destination was near, and with it a bathroom break. But that might be too late. Her right foot had gone to sleep. Every nerve ending in it silently gnawed at her. Her shoulders still hurt from the flogging. The train stopped, then reversed itself, backing up slowly. No more carloads to pick up, please, Kate, thought. I need for this trip to be over. Her bladder screamed its pain at her. The slow backwards motion stopped. She could hear the rattle of doors opening in the distance, though not the door of this car. A murmur of indistinct voices outside the train penetrated the walls. She could hear many feet walking outside. Suddenly she heard the door of the car open. "We're here," said the woman next to her. She could hear footsteps in the corridor as guards ordered prisoners out of each compartment in order. Knath's bladder was near to bursting. "Compartment 5, out of the car and onto the platform, now!" barked a female 7th Secretariat guard. The standing prisoners walked out first. While there was room, the sitting prisoners stood with the groans of relief and filed out after them. They came out into a long, narrow hall rail station platform with hundreds of female prisoners looking normal except for their shaved heads, stood nervously glancing around, trying to make sense of the scene. Knath saw a broad, low, warehouse-like building at one end of the platform. She looked the other way and saw the train, empty of passengers, was already pulling out, rolling in reverse on a single track that passed through a large gateway of gray cinder blocks. The structure was more than just a gateway. It extended for some distance on either side of the gate and had 2 stories. A barbed wire fence, apparently only 1.5 times Knath's height, started from the 2 ends of the gate and marked the limits of the camp as far as Knath could see. Guard towers stood at intervals along the fence. Beyond the fence, a brown, flat, treeless expanse of sandy earth extended to the horizon. The air was dry and the day was sunny and hot. A few wisps of wispy clouds hovered in the distance. Desert country lies to the west of the capital, she thought, so I suppose we've been taken west. She looked the other way. In the direction opposite the gatehouse, the sight was obscured by rows of buildings, also made of dreary gray cinder block. Between the platform and the gate was a vast open space with no visible vegetation on the hard brown earth. Uniformed 7th Secretariat agents strode warily up and down the platform, slapping their billy clubs into the palms of their hands. Her foot was asleep, but the first few steps restored her circulation. She noticed a large number of women prisoners stepping off the platform onto the bare earth next to it and squatting to relieve themselves. "Any prisoner that needs to go to the bathroom is permitted to do so, but you must step off the platform," shouted a 7th Sec man, older than the rest and seemingly of higher rank. Knath stepped out of the platform along with the others. In a way, she was glad to be able to do this, but as she pushed down her pants and lowered herself towards the ground, she could not forget that the more than half of the 7th Secretariat guards watching the women urinate were male. When she was done, there was nothing to wipe herself with. She pulled up her pants and zipped them with a sigh. Then she stepped back onto the platform. The 7th Sec man in charge shouted, "Who was the prisoner in compartment 5 who tried to open the door?" Immediately, one of the women shouted back, "She did. She pointed to a teenage girl near her. Two agents, a man and a woman, dragged her off the platform, threw her into the dirt, and began to pound her with their clubs. All other prisoners will immediately go to the processing center that way, he pointed with his club. Prisoners turned and walked away rapidly to a large warehouse-shaped building at the far end of the platform. A sign over the entrance read, Processing Center Unit 1, incoming prisoners disrobe here. Disrobe? Another humiliation, Knath thought. Inside she saw immense piles of shoes, panties, bras, blouses, skirts, and pants, each with a descriptive sign over it. Like all the other prisoners, she began stripping. Naked women milled about the room, walking from one pile to another and throwing their clothes in the heaps. Once Knath had everything off, she did the same. She folded her school uniform and stacked it up in a pile with the underwear and socks on the top. She gave away her uniform shoes first, just tossing them in a pile like everybody else was doing. This is ugly. This is the ugly reality that lurks behind all those rumors about the camp, she thought. I noticed some of the prisoners are helping the 7th Secretariat run this place. Why would they do that? She saw 3 7th Sec guards here too, who stood about with their backs against the wall and their clubs at the ready, watching the women undress. Many other women were also watching, clothed in what Knath already knew was a standard prisoner's uniform, a beige blouse and pants with a billed cap. These prisoners' camps all had the number 17 on front, but they were not already ordinary. They were not all ordinary prisoners. Excuse me. They all wore black armbands and carried clubs like a 7th Sec agents. Each one had a green triangle pointed down, sewn onto the left breast of her blouse. What do these triangles mean? She wondered. Why are they allowed to carry clubs? There were women of all races here. The majority were Thwasians. Most of the rest were white people, and a few were black Minarians, the daughters of ancient Africa on First Earth. All ages from high school through late middle age were here. Knath did not see any elderly women. She saw one small, skinny girl with small breasts who she guessed might be 13. Many of the other women were teenagers. Few seemed older than 40. Every prisoner's face had an identical pair of terrified eyes. The faces were flushed to a bright crimson. Some, once they were given up their clothes, tried to cover themselves with their hands. Knath didn't try. Fear drove shame out of her mind. She at last worked her way to the front of the throng, in front of the pants pile, and tossed her school uniform trousers onto the heap. Many of the pairs of pants on the pile were school uniforms. After depositing one of your clothing, one of the supervising prisoners shouted, move quickly to the other end of the building, go outside, and await further orders. Knath went outside and joined the throng of naked bodies huddled together for protection and warmth as a cool autumnal breeze was blowing between their legs. A wooden platform with a microphone on it stood in front to the left of the throng. In front of the naked prisoners loomed another warehouse-sized building, the side reading Processing Unit 2, Showers, and Clothing Ration. One of the mysterious supervising prisoners took a microphone and announced, you will remain standing here until the entire shipment of prisoners has been processed through Unit 1. You will then proceed to Unit 2 when instructed to do so, but not before. After some time had elapsed, the rest of the prisoners joined them. Knath's eyes settled on another girl her own age. She was covering herself with her hands. Her red face glistened with tears. You'll be released into Unit 2, said the prisoner on the mic, in two groups according to 2 letter prefixes on your tattoos. If your tattoo begins with AM, BM, GM, HM, or KM, or LM, you will now enter Unit 2. And I want to see you worthless shitheads run into Unit 2. We have a lot of pieces to process today. Pieces? Knath asked herself. That's the end of that part. Now I have a surprise for you. I also write poetry. This poetry is not exactly science fiction or fantasy, but for a change of pace, I thought I'd throw it in. It's called The Little Brown Ones by Betty Cross. The little brown ones, they gather in the silent throngs, occupying our front yards as if in silent protest. What do they want of us? They seize hold of our shoes as we walk into the house, as if to demand our attention. What do they want from us? We want nothing from them. The ones who piggyback into our houses we call trash, and throw them out with the banana peels and the empty yogurt cups. The ones in our yards we call yard waste, and we shove them into great piles, place them under arrest, and confine them in large plastic bags until solid waste services takes them away. Their language is known to but a few, but I, the poet, hear with understanding. I can parse their senses. They ask only one thing of us. We are not garbage, nor are we trash, oh two-legged, five-fingered oxygen breather, but we are the dead. In life, we produce the element that gives you life. gives life to you, and kindles the fire so vital to your great metal carts. We lived millions of years before you. We never needed you, but you always needed us. Our only demand is, will you please make sure there are always plenty of leaves?